Investigators say the killers mistook Escalante for a member of a rival gang, even though he identified himself as a deputy before he was shot.
On August 2, 2008, in Cypress Park, a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy was shot dead in his driveway as he left for work. The federal case that grew from that murder named 88 Avenues members. These are the 8 most brutal gang leaders Los Angeles ever produced. One built a Mexican Mafia empire from a meat shop on Compton Avenue. One ran East Coast Crips while preaching peace. One is awaiting trial in the Tupac Shakur murder. Before we get into this, drop a like and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Number 8. Duane Keffe D. Davis. On September 29, 2023, near Las Vegas, police arrested a 60-year-old man for a murder that had haunted hip-hop for almost 27 years. His name was Duane Keith Davis, better known as Keffe D. By then, Tupac Shakur had been dead longer than he had been alive. The case was old enough to have its own myths, books, documentaries, and arguments in barbershops. Then, the police said the last living man from the white Cadillac had talked himself into handcuffs. Keffe D came from Compton and built his name around the South Side Compton Crips. By his own telling, he started running with the Crips in the early 1970s. He later said he had regular jobs, including work around Compton College, but the pay was too slow. Crack cocaine offered faster money, and Davis followed it. In the 1980s, he went to prison on drug charges. He said prison made him harder. Nobody ever says prison made them better at paperwork. By the 1990s, Davis was an older Compton figure with weight behind his name. His nephew was Orlando Anderson, known as Baby Lane. Anderson had problems with Tupac Shakur's circle, and on September 7, 1996, those problems spilled out inside the MGM Grand after the Mike Tyson fight. Hotel security video showed Tupac and members of Death Row attacking Anderson near the casino floor. Police say that beating led to the shooting later that night. A white Cadillac pulled up beside the BMW, carrying Tupac and Suge Knight on the Las Vegas Strip. Gunfire came from the Cadillac. Tupac was hit several times and died days later. Davis has said for years that he was in the front passenger seat. He also said he handed a gun into the back seat. For years, Keffe D told that story in interviews, documentaries, podcasts, and his 2019 memoir. He spoke like the man with the missing piece. The trouble was that investigators were still collecting pieces. In July 2023, police searched his home in Henderson and took phones, computers, ammunition, photos, and material tied to the Tupac case. 2 months later, Davis was charged with murder. Prosecutors do not say he pulled the trigger. They say he helped make the shooting happen, supplied the gun, and acted in a gang feud. Davis has pleaded not guilty and now says he exaggerated parts of his story for money and attention. Even in jail, trouble followed him. While waiting for trial, Davis was convicted in an unrelated jail fight. For Keffe D, the old street stories finally became evidence, and the microphone became the worst witness in the room. It was not a clean ending, but it was a very fitting final chapter. Number 7. Paul Little Doc Wallace. On November 13, 2014, outside a home in South Los Angeles, Reginald Brown was near his car when gunfire came. He had no gun. The weapon tied to the case was an AK-style rifle, and the man prosecutors said helped put that rifle in play was not some young shooter trying to make a name. It was Paul Gary Wallace, a neighborhood OG many people knew as Uncle Bill. Wallace was born in 1966 in Vivian, Louisiana. When he was about 5, his mother moved the family to Los Angeles after finding out his father had another family. In South Central, Wallace grew up around East Coast Crips members before most kids are trusted to cross a street alone. His lawyers said he was hanging around gang members at 6 or 7, even riding on their bicycle handlebars. By his teens, Wallace was already being shaped by bullets. In 1982, he was shot so badly that he spent months in hospitals and rehab, and doctors questioned whether he would walk again. He did. Then, in 1984, he was shot again. Some people get warning signs. Wallace got them with exit wounds. He became tied to the East Coast Crips and the Six Pack. Prosecutors called him a triple OG, a big homie, and a boss of bosses. His record stretched across decades: gun cases, stolen property, drugs, ammunition, and a 1989 voluntary manslaughter conviction from a drive-by shooting. Jail did not make him harmless. His past included prison weapons, including a metal weapon found in 1996. Then came the part that made Wallace hard to explain. By the 2010s, people in South Los Angeles saw him as a gang intervention worker. He was linked to peace talks between East Coast Crips and Florencia 13, two groups with years of blood between them. Supporters said he used his name to stop shootings and talk young men away from gang life. Federal prosecutors said that was only half the picture. They said Wallace still held power through fear, drug dealing, extortion, robberies, shootings, and orders that carried weight behind bars. While locked up at MDC Los Angeles, he was accused of discussing extortion and witness pressure. Later, prosecutors said he ordered an inmate stabbed after the man questioned his authority. The Brown murder brought the two versions of Wallace into the same courtroom. Prosecutors said he drove the shooter to Brown's home and supplied the AK-style rifle used in the killing. In 2022, a jury convicted him of RICO conspiracy and a firearm charge tied to violent crime. He was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. In 2024, his appeal failed. Uncle Bill had preached peace. Little Doc answered for the body. Number 6. Michael Mosca Torres. At 9:23 in the morning on July 6, 2023, inside California State Prison, Sacramento, Michael Mosca Torres was hit by two inmates before staff could stop it. When officers reached him, he had multiple stab wounds. At 10:30, he was dead. For years, Torres had used jail cells, payphones, illegal cell phones, and scared men to move money through Los Angeles County jails. On that morning, none of it mattered. Torres was born in 1964 and grew up in San Fernando, tied to the San Fer gang. He did not have much school, but he read all the time. Investigators later found books and notes on war, history, anatomy, and weapons. That was Mosca in one ugly picture. Little formal education, a lot of patience, and interests that made police evidence rooms feel personal. His first blood came early. In 1981, as a teenager, Torres was convicted of voluntary manslaughter after a drunken man was stabbed near his brother's car. In 1990, he killed a Pacoima gang member outside a market and went back to prison. At Pelican Bay, he was sponsored into the Mexican Mafia by Luis Huerobuf Flores, one of the group's original names. When Torres returned to the Valley, he came back with weight. In 2003, in North Hills, he shot David Diablo Mendoza, a man accused of using the Mexican Mafia name to collect money on his own. That same night, another man called Smokey was kidnapped, beaten, choked, and stabbed, but lived. The case helped bury Torres under 133 years to life. Most inmates disappear under a sentence like that. Torres used it like office space. Investigators said he fought to stay in Men's Central Jail because that was where the cash moved. From inside, he used illegal phones to track debts, collect taxes, pass orders, and decide who was in good standing and who was about to have a bad day. His jail business was simple. Latino inmates paid into a kitty from commissary money. Drug dealers paid tax. Heroin that was cheap on the street could sell for hundreds behind bars. If someone refused, there was no customer service department. 13 inmates were put on a green light until money was paid to lift it. Outside, Virginia Big Verge Moore helped collect for him. One man, Peter Zeeler, was killed after being mistaken for someone who owed Torres money. After Mosca died, his partner, Stephanie Rodriguez, was shot in San Fernando, and his old enforcer, Joseph Capone Hutchinson, was killed in jail. The place he had treated like a bank and a courtroom finally became a hallway he could not control anymore. Torres built power in custody. Custody collected him last. Number 5. Michael Pomona Mike Lerma. In June 2020, on 6 North, inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, Steve Bencomb lay dead in a federal cell. He had been stabbed and strangled. The body was not found right away. One inmate later testified that he spent the night near Bencomb before anyone finally called out, "Man down!" This was not an alley, a motel, or a back room. It was a locked federal jail, the kind of place built to know where every man is. Yet a man was dead, and silence still did its job for hours. The name prosecutors tied to that death was Michael Lerma, known as Pomona Mike and Big Mike. He was not a young street soldier trying to impress anyone. He was an older lifer, already buried in the prison system. And prosecutors said he still had men moving for him like the door had never closed. Lerma came from Pomona, California. He grew up with 6 siblings after his father, described in court records as a heroin dealer, left the family. He joined Pomona 12th Street young, dropped out before finishing high school, and later served in the Marine Corps. He said the Marines taught him discipline and chain of command. That part stayed with him. The legal use of it did not. His first murder case came when he and his brother Ruben admitted killing a man tied to a rival group. Lerma was paroled in less than 4 years. Then came Sacramento. A man named Randall Craig Keistner was accused of taking heroin and a tool from him. Keistner was shot dead outside a 7-Eleven, and Lerma pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He received 15 years to life. Prison should have ended his reach. Instead, prosecutors said, it became his office. California officials labeled him tied to the Mexican Mafia in 1995, though Lerma denied being a member. Over time, the name Pomona Mike was linked to taxes on dealers, messages from custody, and people outside moving money for him. One was Sharul Perez Castaneda, described as a high-level associate who helped collect money and pass orders. Another was Kelly DeShannon, called a secretary for the network. The titles sounded clean. The job was not. At MDC Los Angeles, witnesses said Lerma controlled Latino inmates on 6 North. Debts mattered. Workouts mattered. Respect mattered. Jose Martinez testified that when he owed money, he was stabbed and told not to call for medical help. Then Bencomb owed money. Prosecutors said Lerma ordered the killing. In 2025, a federal jury convicted him and 3 others. In March 2026, at 69, Michael Lerma was sentenced to life in federal prison for power he was never supposed to have anymore. Number 4. Rudy Aguirre Jr. On the morning of August 2, 2008, outside a home in Cypress Park, Los Angeles, Deputy Juan A. Escalante stepped out to leave for work at the county jail. His wife and children were inside. A gunman opened fire, and Escalante died in the street before his shift even started. Rudy Aguirre Jr. was not the man who pulled the trigger. That made the case stranger. The murder lit up the Avenue's investigation, and when federal agents started pulling wires, names, visits, and money trails, Rudy's name kept coming back. Rudy came out of the Avenue's gang in northeast Los Angeles, around Cypress Park, Glassell Park, Highland Park, and Drew Street. He was not some loud kid trying to earn a nickname. Prosecutors called him a high-ranking Avenue's leader and a close associate of the Mexican Mafia. The Aguirre name already meant something there. His father, Rudy Sr., and relatives like Richie Lil Pee Wee Aguirre were tied to the same world, where county jail, state prison, and neighborhood corners all fed each other. His real value was access. Rudy visited Mexican Mafia figures locked up in Pelican Bay, carried messages back to the street, and helped decide who could collect taxes from drug dealers in Avenue's territory. These were not taxes with receipts and pothole repair. This was money paid so a dealer could keep breathing and keep selling. When the money stopped, people noticed. When someone was accused of touching it, people died. Rudy admitted that in 1999, in northeast Los Angeles, he shot and killed a rival gang member. Years later, he also admitted approving the 2008 murder of an Avenues member accused of stealing tax money meant for the gang and the Mexican Mafia. That detail is the one that shows his place best. He was not only aimed at enemies across town, he could sign off on violence against his own side if the cash came up short. There were other cold pieces. Rudy and his father went to Pelican Bay to talk about punishing a man called Boo Boo, accused of disrespecting the Aguirre family and failing to help a wounded Avenues member. In another recorded talk, Rudy discussed keeping a man working under Richie Aguirre after release if that man had to dress it up with a clean plan. Rehabilitation is a nice word. Gangs liked paperwork too. In 2009, the federal RICO case named 88 Avenues members and associates, with Rudy as the lead defendant. In October 2013, at age 32, he got 25 years in federal prison. For years, Lil Psycho helped carry prison power onto Los Angeles streets. Then the streets carried him back to a locked door. Number 3. Timothy Joseph McGhee. On September 11, 2001, in northeast Los Angeles, Duane Natividad was riding through the street with Margie Mendoza and Erica Ree when bullets tore into their car. Glass broke, metal jumped, people ducked. Natividad lived. Mendoza did not. Prosecutors later said the shooter was Timothy Joseph McGhee, the Toonerville leader who treated Atwater Village like a checkpoint with houses around it. McGhee was born around 1973 and grew up in Atwater Village. By the early 2000s, police were not calling him just another gang member. They believed he was the main shot caller for Toonerville Rifa 13. His body advertised the job. Atwater Village was tattooed across his chest. Toonerville Rifa was across his back. On the back of his head, he had the eagle and snake from the Mexican flag. Subtle was not part of the brand. His record was already serious before the murder cases. In 1994, McGhee was convicted of assault on a peace officer in San Bernardino County and sent to prison. He also studied police science at Cal Poly Pomona, a strange detail for a man later accused of helping plan attacks on police. That is either irony or bad course selection. Investigators said McGhee ran Toonerville with discipline. Members trained, lifted weights, practiced shooting, watched corners with radios, and moved when he gave orders. Police said when he was locked up, violence in Atwater dropped. When he came home, it rose again. For that neighborhood, his release date worked almost like a storm warning. The bodies and shootings built the case around him. Ronald Martin was killed in 1997, shot 27 times. Raul Gonzalez, only 16, was killed in 2000. On July 4th that same year, officers chasing a yellow Honda were ambushed with gunfire. One bullet tore through an officer's pants. He survived, but that detail tells you how close the night came to a funeral. McGhee was also tied in court to witness intimidation. Christina Duran had given information connected to him. Later, she was found dead inside a car, shot repeatedly in the head. Prosecutors used that killing to show what happened to people who talked. Prison did not end the violence. In 2005, McGhee was accused of helping lead a jail riot at Men's Central Jail. In 2012, on San Quentin death row, he attacked correctional officers with a homemade weapon. In 2003, McGhee was caught in Bullhead City, Arizona. In 2007, he was convicted of 3 murders and 4 attempted murders. In 2009, he was sentenced to death. Then, in 2025, California's Supreme Court overturned the conviction because a juror had been wrongly removed. He was not declared innocent. The death sentence collapsed because the courtroom made the mistake. Number 2. Danny Popeye Roman. On June 10, 2020, inside the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility in Corcoran, Danny Roman walked onto a prison yard as a 64-year-old lifer. At about 10:44 that morning, 2 inmates moved in with homemade stabbing weapons. Officers stopped the attack, but Roman had already been cut in the face and body. At 11:11, he was pronounced dead. In the prison files, he was C-15546. In South Los Angeles, he was Danny Popeye Roman. Roman had entered state prison from Los Angeles County in 1985 for first-degree murder. His sentence was life without parole, which usually means the street stops calling your name. Roman found a way to keep the line open. By the late 1980s, investigators said he had been brought into the Mexican Mafia, and his old gang, Harpys, still mattered outside the walls. The center of that outside world was not a bunker or a secret warehouse. It was a meat shop on Compton Avenue. Roman's daughter, Diana Roman, owned Villamar Tortilleria y Carniceria, and federal investigators said she carried messages from her father after visiting him at Pelican Bay. Men came to the shop to talk business, settle gang politics, and hand over money. It looked like a family business, because technically, it was. Just not the kind that sells gift cards. The money came from South LA. Federal agents said Roman's reach covered more than a dozen Latino gangs, including Harpys, 38th Street, Playboys, Primera Flats, and East Side 13. Around the 25th of each month, people brought cash to the meat shop. Some of it came from drug dealers. Some came from vendors at the Alameda swap meet, where small merchants selling clothes and goods were told to pay dues. A booth can look very small when the person collecting money says no is not really an option. In 2012, the federal case got a name that did not need much explaining: Operation Roman Empire. The indictment charged 29 people in 60 counts, tying the network to drugs, guns, robberies, extortion, witness intimidation, and murder plots. Diana Roman later received 15 years in federal prison. Manuel Valencia, a Harpys shot caller who helped run street work, received 27 years. Roman himself was not charged in that case. He was already buried under a sentence with no release date. But the case still carried his name. That is the part that made Roman different. He did not have to stand on a corner. He did not have to collect the money himself. His power was built on fear, family, and the fact that people outside still answered a man locked far away. Then, on a June morning in 2020, prison gave the final answer back to him. Number 1. Ezequiel Romo. On the morning of October 28, 2017, on Valerio Street in Van Nuys, Carlos Rios stepped out of a car with a spray can in his hand. He thought he was there to tag a fence for Blythe Street. The men who drove him there stayed inside. Then gunfire hit him from behind. When it was over, 17 shell casings were on the street, and Rios was dying beside the wall he had been sent to mark. The man prosecutors tied to that hit was Ezequiel Romo, known as Wicked. He did not need to stand on that street to make the killing happen. By then, Romo had already spent 18 years inside California prisons and had come home with a different kind of ambition. He was not trying to be just another old gang member back in Panorama City. He wanted Blythe Street to move like a crew that took orders. Romo's first serious case started in 1995 at a Tommy's hamburger stand on Roscoe Boulevard. He was 18. After 19-year-old Manuel Avila punched him during a fight, Romo pulled a gun and shot him in front of customers. He was convicted of manslaughter in 1996 and sent to prison for 10 years. The sentence stretched to 18 after he was convicted again for attacking another prisoner with a deadly weapon. Prison was supposed to remove him from the street. It mostly gave him more time to learn the business. When Romo got out in late 2014, He looked at Blythe Street and saw a gang he believed was weak, dirty, and too loose. His answer was to clean house. That meant suspected informants, rivals, drug users, debtors, and even men who wore symbols they had not earned. Carlos Rios had a B tattooed on his face before being officially accepted into the gang. In Romo's world, that was not a style problem. It was paperwork, with bullets attached. Felipe Delgado learned the same rule another way. In 2015, he gave Romo a kilo of cocaine on credit. Soon after, Romo called him an informant. Prosecutors said the real reason was simpler. Romo did not want to pay. Delgado was shot in the back on Compton Avenue and died days later. 2 months later, police caught Romo with meth in his car, and he went back to Centinela State Prison. From Centinela, Romo kept running business through illegal phones, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. Oscarsmo Molina carried his orders outside. Then Molina became a problem and was shot at his apartment door in 2018. Romo later got life without parole. In July 2024, he was stabbed to death inside Centinela. The prison phone stopped ringing for him on that night. 3 men on this list were killed behind bars. Inside the same system they had turned into an office. Roman ran a street empire from Pelican Bay. Torres collected taxes from a county jail cell. Romo placed murder orders over WhatsApp from Centinela. For men like these, a sentence was never really a punishment. It was a different address where the same business continued. The part that finally stopped them was not the court, it was the room itself. If this story made you stop and think, hit the like button. That is how YouTube decides to show this to more young people who might be hearing the wrong voices right now. Drop your city in the comments. Every comment tells the algorithm this story matters. And if you are watching on your phone, hit the hype button below the video. Hype only works on mobile, and it is the fastest way to get this in front of someone who needs to hear it before they make a decision they cannot take back.